Hello crochet friends and welcome! In today's tutorial we are going to be making Jason Funderburker, which is this cutie right here, and I assume if you are here you are also an Over the Garden Wall fan just like me. So welcome! My Patreon subscribers at the single crochet tier and above receive PDF patterns for all of the copyrighted characters that I make tutorials for. And you can also find over there the pattern for Gregory, as well as my rock friend pillow. And I will be adding more and more of my copyrighted characters to that list. So if you're interested in written patterns for any of these items, please go visit my Patreon. Now, to get started today, we are going to be doing our tutorial with this yarn, which is a blanket yarn. I use Premier Basix Chenille. This is the color Sage, and the darker green color that we've used for his mouth and for his back is Emerald. You can use comparable colors in any size yarn or brand of yarn you want. Just make sure to adjust all of these sizes for your eyes and your hook sizes that you use accordingly. To get started today, you will need... Please pause the video to review the stitch glossary and materials list. Let's start by making our eye bumps. You will need your Sage blanket yarn and a 6.5mm crochet hook. We are going to form a magic circle. And then into our magic circle, we are going to place 4 single crochet. Okay, now that we've got our 4 single crochet into our magic circle, we are going to tighten our magic circle. If you've lost track, you can always count your stitches back. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then 4 is going to be this one right here. I like to place my hook back into my first stitch, and then we're going to tighten our magic circle, being careful not to snap our yarn. This yarn has been especially snappy on me. Alright, now that it's tightened up, I am going to place a knot close to the edge of my work, and this is just to make sure that my magic circle does not slip and come undone. Okay, now we're ready to proceed for round 2. We are just going to place a single crochet in each one of our 4 stitches. So that is 1 and 4. Okay, we've got our 4 stitches. I'm going to turn our eye bump inside out, or right side out, I guess. And this is what you should have at this point. And now what I'm going to do to finish off this eye bump, it's basically done. We're just going to go into our next stitch and do a slip stitch, and then we're going to pull up a loop on our hook, grab our scissors, and cut our yarn, leaving a tail that's long enough for us to use this to attach to our frog later on. And I just take the tail of my yarn and use that as the stuffing, the starting tail of my yarn. And just cram that up on there like this. And now we have our finished eye bump. We're just going to need to make another one of those just like this, and then I will meet you back here to start our arms. Both of our eye bumps are now complete, and we can move on to our arms. For these, we're going to grab our Sage yarn once again and our 6.5mm hook, and we are going to form a magic circle. And into our magic circle, we are going to place 5 single crochet. Now that we have our 5 single crochet, we're going to tighten our magic circle. We're going to tie a knot to secure, and then we will move on to round 2, and we are just going to place 1 single crochet in every single stitch. Whoa. Alright, we have our 5 single crochet, and now we are ready to proceed to round 3. For this round, we're going to decrease by 1 stitch. So we're going to just do a single crochet here. So we're going to decrease. And then 2 more single crochet. All right, we're started to form our hand. Now what we're going to do is stuff our hand as needed. And the first thing I'm going to do is stuff the tail down into the inside of the hand. And I like to take a spare crochet hook to help me make sure everything's crammed down inside of there. And I'm going to get a little bit more stuffing for that. Got a very small, I'm going to pinch an even smaller amount here. And just keep using my crochet hook. Our hand is now stuffed and we are ready to proceed to the next round. So we're going to just do a single crochet in every one of our 4 stitches here. Round 4 is now complete and you should still have 4 stitches, and for this next round we're going to increase up to 5 stitches. So we are just going to do the reverse of our decrease round and single crochet and then increase. And then 2 single crochet. Okay, so for the next 2 rounds, we are going to do a single crochet in every single one of our 5 stitches for round 6 and 7, and so I will meet you back here when we are done with that. We have our 2 rounds of single crochets complete, and now we are going to do a decrease round. So we're going to do a single crochet, and then a decrease, and then 2 single crochet. Now we're going to stuff our arm lightly. We don't want to put much stuffing into the arm. We do want to do just a little bit, like maybe a cotton ball's amount, if that. Yeah, we don't want it to be stuffed a lot. You can see it's still squishy. It's not like stiff. If you overstuff the arm, it will stick out at an angle from his body. Now we are ready to proceed with our final round, and what we are going to do here is seam our arm closed using single crochets. So to do this, instead of working in the round, we're going to switch to working flat. We're going to chain here, and then I'm going to put my hook through the next stitch and then also through the last stitch that we did on the other side, kind of squishing this circle flat. So we've got our working loop on the hook here, and then the first stitch and the last stitch, and we're going to yarn over and do a single crochet to complete, and we're going to just do the same thing on this next one of sticking through both sides like that. And there you have it. This is an arm. So you'll need to make a second arm just like this arm, and then meet me back here and we will make our legs. All right, my friends, we've got 2 arms. Now we are ready to proceed to legs. So at this point, we will discuss wire. Now, you do not have to use wire in the legs of your frog if you do not want to. If you choose to not put wire into your frog, his legs will probably be not strong enough to stand his body up, and his feet will be floppy, and he will be less posable. Putting the wire into his legs gives you a little bit more ability to bend the legs like this and have him seated. You can pose his little feet like this if you want to as well, but you do not have to add wire. If you choose to add wire, you can use a floral wire, or you could use pipe cleaners that you've twisted a couple of them together. That's probably the easiest and most accessible for the most people. This is armature wire that I ended up ordering by accident for a different project, and now I have a bunch of it, so we're just going to use what I have on hand. And to start off, before I crochet, I'm just going to get my wire ready. Now I've used a measuring tape to give me a rough guideline. I'm going to go for something that's in the end going to be about 10 inches long, 9 or 10 inches long. And I'm going to double mine over. This is probably fine. I'm going to give myself extra space and just bend this over. Oh, my wire is twisted. What do you know? There we go. And now that I've doubled it over, I can cut my wire. If you're using like a thin floral wire or pipe cleaners, you can use just some scissors that you don't care about to cut these. This wire I could probably cut with scissors as well because it is pretty bendy, but I do have wire cutters handy, so I'm just going to use my needle nose plier with wire cutters on there. So now I have my doubled over piece of wire, and then what I'm going to do is use my pliers to squeeze this end closed. And then I'm going to kind of twist it together so that the two pieces aren't flapping around. And I'm just grabbing this and then twisting it and twisting my other hand in the other direction. So now we have our twisted piece of wire like this. I use my pliers to fold these two ends over and squeeze those down. And I'm going to form a triangle shape at the end of this wire. And you'll only want the triangle piece to be big enough that it fits Jason's foot. So if I grab Jason Funderburker, you can see that this, which is about a half an inch wide, or for you metric people, 1.5 centimeters across at this point. You don't want the front of the triangle to be much wider than that, otherwise it's not going to fit. So now I've got a little triangle shape here. And I'm going to take some tape and tape over this just to be sure this rough edge doesn't go anywhere and to keep these pieces together. That way it won't run the risk of poking through and hurting anyone. For this, you could use washi tape, you could use a painter's tape or a masking tape, and then I'm just going to place that on here and kind of wrap it. So now I've got my wire base ready to go for making my frog, and we can proceed to making our foot. Using our 6.5mm crochet hook and sage yarn, we are going to form a slip knot. I'm going to place my loop onto my hook and adjust that to the correct size, and now we are going to chain 4. We're going to flip our chain over, and into the little back bumps on the back side of your stitches, we are going to go in the second stitch from the hook. So not this guy, but the next one. I'm going to flip it over, and then working through the back bump of the stitch, we're going to place a single crochet in all 3 of our remaining stitches here. So you should have a little starting nubby chain like this guy now with 3 stitches. And what we're going to do is work around and turn this, instead of working flat, into the round by working into the stitches on both sides of this. So I'm going to go to the starting chain here, and we're going to work through those loops. And they may be a little bit tight to get into, just a heads up. So we have our first 3 stitches. We're going to skip this turning chain and go around to our 3 stitches that we made into our starting chain, and we're going to crochet 3 into those. So that's 1, 2, 3. Place my stitch marker into the final stitch, and what you should have is a little bit of an oval. So to start off right now, we're going to do a single crochet and then decrease, single crochet, decrease for this round. So now I'm going to place my stitch marker back into that final stitch. I'm going to make my loop bigger for a second so that we can work on getting our foot taken care of. We're going to take this starting tail and shove that inside of the foot here. I'm going to use my little spare crochet hook that I have lying around. I'm also going to just give it a little bit of a stretch there. Now I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to put my little triangle down inside of here. If you wait to add your wire until later, it'll be easier to crochet this part that's coming up, harder to get the wire in where you need it later. So I really recommend doing it this way, and you can kind of bend the wire to manipulate it as we're crocheting. So now we're going to do 2 rounds of just a single crochet in every single stitch, which can be a little bit fiddly trying to get around this wire. So if it's in your way, I recommend kind of like hold it in place, bend it the opposite direction so that it's kind of sticking away from you so that you can get your hook into the stitch you need. We'll straighten it up as I go around. I can bend it away from me again if I need to. Okay, my friends, this is what your foot should look like so far. And now we have our stitch marker and our final stitch here, and we are going to do some of the more fiddly rows right now. And so first thing we're going to do here for this one is we're going to do a decrease, then we're going to place 3 single crochet in the next stitch, and then a single crochet to finish off this round. So to start, we're going to do our decrease, and it is annoying to get into these stitches here. And if I find I'm having an issue, sometimes what I'll do is try to get my finger down in the way there so that I can feel where the stitch is and pull it out a little bit like that. So now I've got my decrease done. And we have 2 stitches remaining. It's kind of hard to see, they're very tight. So again, I am going to grab an extra stitch marker and I'm going to place it through this stitch and then just kind of use it to pull those loops up like that. And now I can more easily get my hook into this stitch, hopefully. There we go. And we're going to do 3 single crochet into this stitch. 1, 2, there's 3, and then we're going to place 1 single crochet into this final stitch here. And I will replace my stitch marker. So this is what you should have at this point. And now we're ready to move on to our next fiddly round. We're going to do a decrease and then 3 single crochet. At this point you should have 4 stitches in your work, and we are going to do a single crochet in every single round for this stitch, for this round. We made it through the most fiddly parts of forming our leg, and now we are ready to proceed with the easier bits. So we have all 4 of our stitches here. We're going to increase to add a couple of stitches into our work. We're going to do a single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, and then I will meet you back here at the stitch marker. Okay, my friends, here we are. We have our foot, our ankle, and we're working on forming the rest of our leg now. And what we're going to do is do 5 rounds of single crochet in every single stitch. You should have 6 stitches in your work, and I will meet you back here when we've done all 5 of those rounds at the end of round 14. All right, my friends, we are back. And I am not going to need my stitch marker anymore at this point. So the legs will attach to the body with some little flaps that will come up either side that we will sew to the outside, and then a couple stitches we're going to sew underneath his body here. And to make this flap, we are going to, for the left leg, we are going to chain 1, and we're going to turn. I'm going to bend my wire out of my way. And then into here we're going to do 4 single crochet into the next 4 stitches. I'm going to turn now without chaining. You saw me start to chain and then not do it. And then what we're going to do is just slip stitch. We're going to slip stitch into the first stitch, single crochet times 2, and then slip stitch. And then now I'm going to pull up a loop onto our hook and cut my yarn, leaving a long tail for us to sew our leg onto our body later. Now that we're done crocheting, we can straighten our wire back out, and this is what you should be left with for your left leg. Now we're going to stuff our leg, and to do that I'm going to just start grabbing a little bit of stuffing here, and then I'm going to like wrap this kind of around the wire a little bit, and then I grabbed my pin because it was handy, like use that to kind of stuff, and I try to do that way to make sure we're getting stuffing around the wire. We're just going to do that until our leg is as stuffed as we would like it to be. Alright, we've stuffed our leg up to this part right here. When we go to put the legs onto the body, if you want to add a little bit more stuffing in this part before you sew, that is fine. But for now, we don't need to worry about that. It'll just kind of get in the way. So we've got one leg. Now what I'm going to need you to do is do another leg, just like this, except once we get to the end of round 14 and we've done all 5 of our rounds of single crochet, we're going to stop there, and I will meet you back here and we will finish up the flap for our right leg. Alrighty, crochet friends, we are back. We've got our second leg completed all the way through round 14, and we are ready to move on to round 15. And for this leg to do our flap, we're going to do 4 single crochet. And now we're going to chain 1 and turn. Bend my wire out of the way. We're going to do 4 single crochet, and now we're going to turn, and then I am going to do a slip stitch, two single crochet, and then another slip stitch. And then we're going to finish off this leg the same way we did as our other leg, with cutting their yarn and then leaving a tail for us to attach. We've got 2 legs here. We are ready to make the body of Jason Funderburker, and to do that we're going to form a magic circle in our sage yarn, or our main color, and we're going to place 4 single crochet in our color 1 into our magic circle. And when we get to our 4th stitch, before we finish yarning over to complete our stitch, we're going to grab our next color here, our dark green, and we are going to finish our stitch with this other color, like that. And now we're going to do 2 single crochet in our dark green, and on that last dark green we're going to switch back to our sage. And now I'm going to place my hook into this first stitch and tighten my magic circle. Alright, we've got our magic circle tightened, and I tied my knot to secure it on the other side, and we are ready to proceed to round 2. And for this round we're going to increase every single stitch, And we're going to do color changes in the same way we did before on that final yarn over of our last stitch of that color, so that we are prepared for the next color. So we're just going to do an increase in every single one of our stitches, and at the end you should have 12 stitches in total. Alright, I'm on the last stitch of this round doing my final increase, and I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my main color on my final yarn over here. And now we've got 12 stitches in our work, and we are ready to proceed to round 3. And in this round, we are going to do a single crochet and then an increase all the way around. Same thing, we're going to switch colors when it is time on this final stitch before our dark green, and I will meet you back here on our last stitch. Round 3 is complete, and you should have 18 stitches in your work in total. Now, moving on for round 4, we're going to place a single crochet in every one of our light green or sage green stitches, and then we're going to do some increases on our dark green stitches. So we'll do 12 single crochet here, and then we're going to do 2 single crochet, 2 increases, and then 2 single crochet. Alright, you should have 20 stitches in your work at this point. So we are going to do 4 single crochet, and then an increase, and then 2 single crochet, increase, and then 4 more single crochet. And then for our dark green, we're just going to single crochet in every single stitch for here. Okay, my crochet friends, we should have 22 stitches in our work now that we have finished with that round. And we are going to do 3 rounds of single crochet in every single stitch. So we're going to swap colors like we've been doing at the borders here, and keep going for 3 rounds in every one of your 22 stitches, and then I will meet you back here when we have done all 3 of our rounds. As a tip for managing your yarn while you're working with multiple colors, while I've got my light green, I've got about 4 stitches almost completed, I'm going to take my green yarn and lay it across the yarn I'm working with here, and then continue with my stitch and keep going. And I'm going to do a few more stitches like that, and then I'm going to do that again to kind of help carry my yarn behind my work without it showing through to the other side. So here I've got my yarn, I'm going to lay it across my working yarn one more time there, and then just finish my stitch like normal. And it'll keep the alternate color handy for when it is time for you to do your color change. And then here, your colors will get twisted, so we'll just untwist our work like this. And now I am ready to yarn over with my alternate color like this to keep going. And if we look back at what we just did, we have our yarn, our alternate color yarn, kind of suspended along the back of our work, and it helps keep it a little bit more neat and tidy, so that way when it's time to stuff, your yarn is a little bit more organized on the inside. And I just do the same thing across the back side here with my light green yarn. We're just going to lay it over here before I do my final yarn over of the stitch, and it just kind of loops that yarn and holds it in place against the inside of your work as you go. You just have to keep untwisting your work as you go like that in order to stop your yarn from becoming impossibly twisted. That is your downside. But then, as you can see here, we have our other yarn ready to go for our color change, and it's kept nice and snug on the inside of our work. So we are ready to proceed with our next round. For this round, we're going to do 14 single crochet in our light green, and then when we switch to our dark green, we're going to do a single crochet, a decrease, 2 single crochet, a decrease, and then a single crochet. All right, you should have 20 stitches in your work with that round done. we're ready to move on to round 10. We are going to do 2 single crochet and then a decrease. We'll do that 3 times in total. And then we're going to do an additional 2 single crochet in our dark green color. So we're going to do 2 single crochet and then a decrease. And then 2 single crochet. We should have 16 stitches in our work at this point. On this round, we're going to attach our arms using single crochet. That way we don't have to sew. It's just one less thing to have to sew. And isn't that always a blessing to have one less thing to sew? What we are going to do is do 1 single crochet to start our round. And now we're going to grab our arms. I'm going to place my crochet hook through the first stitch of the arm and then through the next stitch of the body. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both of those and then yarn over and pull through to finish our single crochet. See? And now we're attaching the arm. We're going to do the same thing on this next stitch. Like that. And then your arm is attached. We can take the tail for the arm and then tuck it inside of our body here. And we'll crochet over that to the next stitch here. So we're going to do a single crochet at this point. And now we're going to do 3 increases in a row and a 3rd increase. Then we're going to do 1 more single crochet. And now it's time to attach our second arm. Place my hook through both loops of the arm and then into the next stitch like that. This loop is too big. Do you see that? There we go. Let's try that again. Just got a little too much slack in that while we were moving around. And then we're going to single crochet the next stitch to finish attaching our arm. And then we'll do 1 more single crochet here to finish off this part of the row, the round, I guess. And we're going to change colors. And then we're going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to do another single crochet. And then a decrease, and then 1 more single crochet. So it was 2 single crochet, decrease, 1 single crochet. I'm going to just place 1 single crochet here to help hold this color change in place. And now we're going to get our body stuffed. And in order to stuff our body, what we're going to need to do is get the wire for the legs into our body and in place before we put the stuffing in. Otherwise it'll be too hard for us to put the wire in place. Grabbed both of our legs here, and what we're going to do is line up our body, and we want the legs to line up to be basically kind of underneath the arms, and then they should generally line up to close to your dark green, light green color change, if that makes sense. When our legs are attached, we are going to be able to see rounds 1 and 2 in the gap between the legs where they're attached. We're going to sew these 2 stitches to round 3, and then the flap above it along this edge and around the front. So you just want to line that leg up, make sure that it makes sense. It's gotten a little bit twisty from us bending things around with the wire. But this is about where we want it to go. So what I'm going to do is bend my wire out and count up to about row 4 here, and then place the wire in like 1 stitch off from the green, the dark green. I keep just trying to refer to that as the green. They are both green. So when it's done, this is how the leg will line up, okay? We're going to take our second leg, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. The goal is for the legs to be equally spaced apart on the front of the body, kind of underneath the arms, just a little bit like this. This is where we will want them to be. And when it gets sewn together, as you can see, we'll be able to see rounds 1 and 2 between his legs the way that they are oriented. If I flip it over here, we can see that his left leg is riding kind of right up against the dark green, light green border, if I could move this tail, and the right leg is a little bit further up just due to the kind of the twist. So now we've got the legs kind of generically where we want them. We want to make sure that they are at the length that we need them to be. And now inside of our body, we will have our wire. And what we're going to do is kind of reach inside of there and twist those 2 wires together so that they are formed into a little bit of a spine. One of the keys in this step is to make sure that you leave enough wire for your legs to be the appropriate length. If you pull one harder than the other, you're going to have like an uneven-legged Jason Funderburker. So we just want to make sure that you kind of keep them at where you need them to be by like holding him in place or something like this. This way he's not going to get one leg taller than the other. Less likely to get one leg taller than the other. And then I am just going to kind of hold them in place and then reach down into here. And twist those wires together like that. And now I do have way too much wire here, so I'm just going to bend that wire back like down on top of it and kind of swirl it back around. Twisty and wonky right now, so we're just going to kind of like level those legs back out a bit. And then we can check everything and make sure that it looks good. All right. So we've got the wires connected. And I can take my little tails for the legs and just like wrap each one around the leg there, just to keep them kind of out of your way while you're working. Now, if you're not using wire, you don't have to do this step. We are ready to proceed to our next round. And for this round, we're just going to do a single crochet in every single stitch all the way around. Okay, we've got our 18 single crochets all done and our wire is in place. Let's get our body stuffed. So we've got to make sure that your legs are at the appropriate length that you will need. I like to kind of stand my guy up. Make sure that his legs are level there, and they are. Now I'm going to take some Poly-fil, and then I'm going to reach down in here and kind of stuff underneath the wire. And I'm going to do that on both sides. There will be a slight bit of a gap in his legs underneath, and you'll just want to make sure that we get stuffing underneath there and that we're stuffing appropriately around his little wire spine. Okay friends, I've got our body stuffed nice and firmly. We are ready to proceed with our next round. We're going to do 4 single crochet and then 3 decreases and then 4 single crochet in our light green color. And then we're going to switch to our dark green and we're going to do a single crochet, decrease, single crochet. Okay, my friends, we are done with that round. You should have 14 stitches left in your round at this point. And now we are going to do a single crochet and then 2 decreases and then a single crochet and then 2 decreases and then a single crochet in our light color and then 3 single crochet in the dark color. Okay, my friends, we have finished that round and we are almost done. We have one more round to go. We're going to start stuffing the rest of our head now before the opening gets a little bit smaller. Okay, we have gotten more stuffing in here and we'll probably add a little bit more after this last round just to make sure that there is enough here. And I like to, you know, get my finger in and stretch out the little mouth and make sure you get stuffing into that area so that it has kind of the correct definition. And don't worry if your legs get kind of pushed around a little bit during some of this process. So this is our final round. What we're going to do now is do a single crochet and a decrease, and then a single crochet decrease, and then a single crochet. And then we're just going to do 3 single crochet in our dark green, and that will be it. All right, and we are done. So what we're going to do now is cut our yarn for both colors. Just gonna yarn over and pull up here, and I'm gonna get just a little bit more poly-fil. And now we're gonna grab our sewing needle and we're gonna thread up our remaining end, and then we're just gonna go through the front loop of every one of our stitches and then pull it tight to close our magic circle, and then we can bury our tail in the body of our frog, and we will be ready to proceed to our next step. Alrighty, crochet friends, we are ready to attach our legs, and now we're going to line our arms up. Make sure that our legs are where we want them to be. And then I'm going to take some pins, and I'm going to just kind of pin him in place, placing him down, straightening up his body, making sure that he is standing the way that you want him to stand and that everything is lined up appropriately. Now, flipping him over, you can see on one side he's lined up to the green, dark green line, and on the other side it's a little bit off. But when we look at him from the front, his legs are lined up. And this is what's most important. It's more important that his legs are lined up appropriately here in front than it is that they're hitting the green in the back, the dark green in the back, if that makes sense. To get started attaching our leg, now that we've got it lined up where we want it to be, I am going to sew along this top edge and then work my way underneath and back over here. So we're just gonna go in underneath a stitch, and I'm going to come up out the top here. Maybe we'll do a time lapse on the second leg for you to see what that looks like. Get the pins out of the way for a second. So we're going to come in here, in through the side, like that. And now if you want to, you can stuff a little bit more poly-fil in this opening on this other side, which we're going to do right now. You won't need much. Just a tiny little bit here. And you don't have to do this either if you don't want to. It is up to you because this is going to be your frog. Okay, so I put a little bit more stuffing in there to fill out his little haunch. And now we're going to keep sewing. Now I'm going to kind of go back in right along this border with the dark green. So I've already gone through the stitch, but you can see there's a bit of a gap here. So we're just going to go in through the side of that stitch a little bit of stuffing poking out there. And then I'm going to go back through the body here and back into this side of it just one more time. Make sure there's no gaps. And there, you can see his leg is attached. I'm just going to bury this tail down into his leg. And that is what it should look like when it's all done. His arm should line up kind of in line with his leg. And the leg will be just a slight bit more in front when it's sewn in place across this zone right here. There should be approximately 6 stitches here in the center between your 2 legs. And I'm going to go ahead and sew my second leg in place, and we'll do that in a time lapse for you in case it's helpful for you to see me do this a second time. We are ready to sew our eye bumps onto our Jason Funderburker, and as you can see, he is looking good so far. We're going to take these guys and we're going to attach them to his head. We'll stick some pins in our locations as to where we want them to be. I think you want the eye bumps to be kind of in line almost with the top of his head, but there should still be a gap here. So we're going to sew his eyes in place going around here to attach them to his head. Our base frog is completed, and now it's time to just add those final details to turn him into Jason Funderburker and give him a little bit more personality. So we're going to grab our 6.5mm crochet hook and some of our dark green yarn, and I'm going to place a loop onto my hook and get it pretty tightened up on here to where it's about the size I need it to be. And now we are going to surface crochet to add a mouth to our frog. You can do just one line across for his mouth, or you can loop back and do a second line if you want to give him like an upper lip and a lower lip. It is your call as to, you know, your artistic vision, how you see your frog. I'm going to find a space in between stitches, kind of under the eye, over the arm a little bit. So there seems to be a good spot right here, and I'm going to kind of go underneath a stitch and pull my hook out like this. So you see how I'm underneath, and now I'm going to grab my yarn here and just pull it through like that. And now we've got a starting of a slip stitch right here attached. Now disregard this tail, we'll bury this tail when we're complete. So what you're going to do now is go back into the spot where you just came out of, and then underneath this next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through the loop on your hook, like this. And we're just going to keep going like this, grabbing your yarn, pulling it through, go back into the stitch you just came out of, come up on the other side, grab your yarn, and pull it through. And keep working your way across. So we've got our first line across completed. And now I'm just going to turn him upside down like this and just keep doing the same thing, kind of close to right where I was. Okay, so we're almost back here to where we started. We're pretty much there. I'm going to do one more stitch to finish off and just make sure that we've come all the way back to our original spot. And now, so you can see his mouth taking shape here. So cute! Contain our excitement. Okay, so we're ready to finish off and bury our tails inside of our body. So we're going to move his little arm out of the way there. Now, to stop, what we're going to do is pull a loop up on our hook like this, and then we're going to cut our yarn and pull it through. And then, if I could grab it, just pull it tight there, like that. So now we've got our two little tails, and what we're going to do is just grab another smaller crochet hook. This is a 5.5 millimeter. It's just whatever I had handy. And I'm going to go in from a different angle here, come up like right next to where this is. We're going to grab a tail and just kind of pull it in. Like that. So you can see we've buried the one tail. And now we've got this one, and I'm going to go in and pull it down like through this angle. Like that. And if you can grab kind of halfway through and then pull it back down in here, you can get most of it. When you come back up, just make sure that you're going back up directly in the same spot where you were. Otherwise, you're going to loop it over the edge of one of your other stitches, if that makes sense. Pardon me as I fuss and futz with his mouth. This one's a little bit frowny the way I did the edges, but oh look, I can kind of push it. And we can make him a little bit more smiley and less frowny. There we go. So I'm just going to kind of trim this tail a little bit more. And then go in and... oh my gosh, my hands. There we go. We have a frog, and he's almost done. He's looking good. It's time to give our frog eyes. It is possible for you to use 8mm safety eyes for the black circles in the center of these eyes if you don't want to deal with cutting felt circles. This would involve you placing the eyes onto the eye bumps before sewing the eyes in place. For our purposes today, we are using white felt with black felt in the center. I put heat and bond onto the back of my felt in order to help adhere it. It also gives the felt stability and makes it, work better when you're trying to cut it. These are 3/4 inch white circles with 8mm black circles in the center. These are also approximately the same size as an American dime. They're like just a hair larger than this dime, if that helps anybody to size their eyes up. So what we're going to do is glue our eyes in place. I've got my hot glue gun handy here, and we're just going to carefully place some glue, just a small amount, and then place our eye onto the eye bump and just press it hard and kind of rock my thumb back and forth to make sure that that eye adheres. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Eyes are attached. Wasn't that easy? It was too easy. Final details are to embroider a couple of little nostrils onto our frog's face. Now, this is optional as well. You could skip this step if you don't want to deal with it. If you don't have embroidery floss, your frog will probably do just fine how he is. He doesn't have to have nostrils. But let's go the extra mile and let's give our frog nostrils. All right, so we are going to enter the head just off to the side from like a different position away from where we want our nostril to be. And then we're just going to kind of come out of the face, kind of where we want our first nostril to start. And then we just want to go back into the face again. But the trick is you got to make sure that you're not technically going back down in exactly the same spot and that you're actually looping some yarn between your spot where you first came in. You see, so this is where my needle came in, out rather, and here's where I'm going to go back into the face, and then I'm going to come out kind of on the other side here, like that. And we're going to make a second nostril on this side. But this one I came up a little bit too high, so we're going to go back in and come out underneath that, like this. Yeah. And now we'll go back in the face and finish up our second nostril here. You just want to make sure that, like I said before, you are making a big enough gap that the thread isn't just going to disappear when you finish the stitch. So we've gone back into the face, and then we're just going to come out of the same hole where we started. Like that. And when you tighten this up, the nostrils are going to disappear a little bit, and you want to be careful to not tighten too much. I'm going to just cut my needle here. We're going to tie these two ends together. And like I said, just being careful not to like crank it down too tight, and then both of your little nostrils are so tight you can't find them. But obviously he's got these little black hairs on top of his head, and that will not do. So what we're going to do is just grab another crochet hook. I'm going to grab my 3.75 millimeter, and we're going to go out of this hole where this embroidery floss is, grab it with our crochet hook, and then crank it down inside of his head so it disappears. And now, as you can see, that kind of pulled my nostrils tight. So we have to go back in here with our needle and just go underneath your little nostrils and use the needle to pull them up slightly so that they're still visible. I love him. He is so cute. And he's done. This is it. Now I'm going to go outside and get some cute footage of him and show you what he looks like in the sunshine. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, give the video a like and a share, and maybe you should consider subscribing because I upload crochet videos, tutorials like this, and vlogs on my channel every other Wednesday, and I love to make new crochet friends. Speaking of crochet friends, follow me on social media. I am Graceface Creates on all platforms. And a reminder that if you'd like a PDF copy of this pattern or any other over the garden wall characters that I have created, you can go to my Patreon. Please stick around and take a look at my talented pattern testers at the end here. Thanks again for watching, and happy crocheting!